everywhere you go, there's some good people and there's some bad people. They are not all white, they're not all black, yellow, brown. They're just good and bad people, and you have to work hard on being a good person. So desegregation occurred with the help of the white community. Sarah Lowry, and I don't know what it is about Furman and the fine women and community leaders they produce out there, but for that reason, a lot of times when Furman asks me to do something, I'm happy to do it because I remember Sarah Lowry. It was on TV and a lot of people walking down the street, and the sense of pride and accomplishment that occurred in a number of men and women who pulled it off. But what also was surprising were there were a number of people who were doubting Thomases, so to speak. And when it happened to the magnitude that it did, it was the beginning of a change. And I think the mixture of community, not everybody there was black that opposed it. So that was an indication that there were people who realized that some of the things that were happening perhaps were not things that we would be proud of later on. And one thing I remember, which I think helped me throughout my career with making sure that you look at people not for the color of their skin, but the content of their character. My father's boss came to our home, and my dad was not happy when he saw him pull up, and he got out and he walked in, and I was there, and I remember him, you know, how they ruffle your hair, and I'm like, oh, I hate that. And he said, so this is the fellow that all the mess is about. And they sit down, and my mother was very pissed, like, okay, we can handle this, you know. And he said that he was from Pittsburgh, that he didn't believe in what had been happening in the South, and that for as long as my father wanted a job, he had a job at Steel Heddle Manufacturing Company. And with that bit of strength and stuff like that, I looked at that man, and often, I know he's gone now because he was an older guy then, but I went out later when we were doing things and went out to Steel Heddle just to see him. My dad worked out there, and that was enough security. It eased our family enough because we were getting threats on the phone. We had law enforcement at both ends of our driveway. We were being followed. So it was a tense time. And the support of knowing that, okay, I'm not going to lose my job. Even then, though, he would say to my mother, why you get us in all of this? But she was, you know, we were at school, and just a lot of men and women who were behind the scenes making things happen. And they realized that desegregation was going to occur. And I say this on behalf of the many leaders that we had. The quality was so that they didn't want Greenville, who was known then as the textile center of the world, to have the issue, business now and success, of racial riots, which is why we never had them here in Greenville, because there was always a black and a white group consciously working together to make sure that things took place. So you had the desegregation of the school with little, if a few incidents. And the thought processes that ran through my head after that, he said, you know, reading was against the law. Teaching blacks to read was against the law. And now you fought so that you could now come out of the schools where I was being educated. But it was about more than that. It was about breaking that invisible ceiling. You know, at my mother's time, at best, you could be a teacher or a farmer. If you were a doctor, you were just king. There was no thought of being president. If my mother had carried me around and said, we're shaping him up because one day we want him to be president of the United States of America, the neighbors would have said, they're crazy. And so you had different expectations. And what was happening now, as we were breaking these ceilings, it had very little to do with just wanting to be with another race. It had to do with wanting to have access to first-hand information and quality goods and services. And so it had a positive effect in one way, but for black businesses, it shut them down. Now, what was going on in my head was I would have never played football at the black school because they were big, mean, strong. I felt they would have killed me. I really did. But the racist part of me, bias is a better word, had been taught that there was no white that could outperform a black. I really had that superiority feeling that, you know, we're faster, stronger, and better athletes than whites. So if I play with them, I'll be a star. That was my feeling. I never said. And when I got there, because I did go, and I think I sneaked down there the first day, and when they saw me walking on, it was like, and they were calling, and I think the school boards and all these people were having these meetings because the question was, would I be eligible to play football because I transferred from one school to the other? So they redshirted me. So they took me off of the varsity team and made me play on the JV team. And I was just like I thought. I was fast. First week, and the reporters were coming out, and I was just, hey, they couldn't catch me. Now, part of that was, it was very easy for me, a little feared African-American, to be running from these big white guys chasing me. So avoiding them grabbing me was very easy. And I still had the clippings and stuff from running, Byrd, outstanding running back at the school, but when it was time for me to play, they wouldn't let me play. And when I would run the ball, I could run the ball from the 5 to the 5, but they would take me out every time and let somebody else score. And that became a consistent pattern to the point that even the sports people said, what is that about? And apparently it was some meeting, and so that took the spirit out of it. But I played ball all of those years, and I had some friends and buddies and stuff, and there were still people on the team, and you know, you had some diehards that were never going to accept it, and you run in our school and but run that ball for us and that kind of thing. So I played and injured myself my senior year. Sprained an ankle and didn't get to play in the homecoming game, but I enjoyed that time. And as a matter of fact, it is an experience that I think helped to desegregate some emotions of people who otherwise would have just held a stereotype. Because after a while, I remember that I was faster for some of them, but I remember just having my little bias crushed when I was in a 100-yard dash with this kid, and he went by me so fast. I'm like, to this day, I can see his hair just waving in the wind. I'm like, am I running? So it's, you know, nobody's superior. There's just, you are what you are. I'm going to say for the first time, this will be the first time that you will have heard me say this, but the civil rights movement, as we know it, is over. The last paragraph, the last sentence of the civil rights movement is Coretta Scott King is dead. The last sentence in the last paragraph of the civil rights movement is Barack Obama has been elected President of the United States of America. Civil rights movement is over. There will be new movements along the lines of economics, survival, but that old day of being mad and not being able to give it up, and you can't trust no white person or no black person, or they all liars and thieves, they all can play basketball, they all good with money, you know, all these labels that we have for various groups. There will be another movement, but the civil rights movement as we know it has ended. And so the South has an interesting lifestyle to offer now, and I think as we continue to grow, we cannot forget our past, because he who fails to recall his past is destined to repeat it.